Coming to you live from my apartment, it's Rob Has a Podcast. And now here's a guy who also has been throwing up because of events on Big Brother 18. Rob Sesternino, hello everybody, and welcome back to our live Sunday night recap of the latest Big Brother episode. Happy to be back here with you to talk about it all. We got a fun show tonight to talk about the Victor's reign of terror so far, as the executives and specifically the board of executives have really got a good stranglehold here on the events of what's going on. First, let me bring in a man who's here with us every Sunday night, even as the season spins and spins and the internet trolls keep trying to get us, but they can't. It's Taryn Armstrong. Taryn, how are you?
I'm doing amazing because guess what just happened? I'm officially not the worst superfan in history.
Yes. Oh, I don't know if anybody accused you of that, but good to know that it is not you, Taryn. So happy news tonight as Meech has taken over that title. So congratulations to Meech.
Thank you. I'd like to thank you, Rob, for letting me do the podcast. My parents for not stopping me from watching Big Brother when I was a kid. It's just like there's so many people to thank right now.
Okay, well, that's all congratulations are due. So well done on that. And I'm trying to find my.
Like, I'm literally the worst superfan in history.
Yeah, sorry. I apologize, everybody. It took me too long to find that. All right, and so joining us here, hopefully not the worst superfan in history as well tonight, that we've been getting so many people writing to us about how, hey, this is like a total bro down. I feel like it's like one giant bromance going on in it's like one giant bromance.
You can call it a giant bromance.
Yes, that's what you can call the RHAP season so far. So we wanted to get the opinion of a female viewer of Big Brother, and she is an honest-to-goodness cat person as well, who's going to be joining us. A big RHAP listener. Kirsten McGinnis joins us here tonight. Kirsten, how are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. I don't make any promises about being not the worst superfan ever, but we'll see.
Okay, as long as you don't start vomiting or anything like that, or go into any sort of like crying fit, good to have you on board, and should be a lot of fun to hear a woman's point of view on all of the Big Brothering.
Well, we'll see.
Okay, we'll see. All right, and of course, we want to hear from you guys, hashtag RHAP. Also, robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. And let's start to get into this. And we got the nominations and really the whole HOH competition from Sunday night or from Thursday night, Victor versus Natalie. And we end up really with just two disturbing storylines here. One of the real self-destruction of Meech and how just a real Meech down on all fronts, Taryn. And then also the continuing saga of Paulie and Zakiya. So which end of this do you want to start with?
I think that we should start with Michelle, just because she's the one who really, she's the one who's been doing the bad behavior this week.
Yeah, it really has been sickening on a lot of fronts, just how badly she's managed to play this. And really, it seems like her argument is like, I don't care about Davon. I'm not crying because she was my friend. I'm crying because nobody tells me what's going on around here. And then instead of sort of like rolling, into a ball, like in the good way and like sucking kneecaps, she seems to be angry with everybody in the house for not telling her what's going on.
Yeah, it's like, hey, I just figured out that I'm out of the loop. I'm sort of on the bottom rung of things. That makes me angry. You guys are the worst for doing this to me. It's like the opposite of what you want to do.
Yeah, how dare you guys not tell me the plans in the house? How dare you? Where do you guys get off?
Well, maybe she learned from Jose.
Yeah, she really was not happy about all of this, and the fact that why isn't she more liked in the house? Why isn't anybody telling her what's going on? And why isn't anybody helping her win the game? And I'm sorry, Michelle, everybody is working way too hard to try to make sure Paulie wins the game. Kirsten, what's your take on Meech? Do you have any? Do you see her as a sympathetic figure at this point in the game?
No, all she does is cry, and then she realizes, oh, I'm being portrayed as mean. She doesn't care that she's actually mean. She doesn't think, oh, maybe I should take some consideration for my actions. Like, should I take some personal responsibility here? Maybe make some changes. She cries and then pukes and then cries about puking and gets mad about jackets. Like, she just doesn't make any sense. And, like, how does she even know that's her jacket? Every woman in the world owns that.
Yes, you called me out on Twitter this week, Kirsten, when I said that she was wearing the Walter White jacket. You said, no, actually, every woman in the world has that jacket.
Yeah, it's the cool girl fall uniform of the olive jacket. I made my boyfriend find the pictures for me. I was like, can you find me a group photo of the girls in the olive jackets? And even he knew what I was talking about.
Is the olive jacket too basic?
It's extremely basic, yes.
It's very basic. That's very basic, Taryn. Now we know.
Well, hey, to be fair to her, the last time James tried somebody else's clothes on, he got a hole in it. So clearly she was justified in her behavior.
Well, speaking of James trying on other people's clothes, this was a very odd statement that was made about how why James ends up needing some new new underwear. This was Natalie.
He needed underwear and socks because he keeps stealing mine.
Wait, hold on. So James is stealing Natalie's underwear and socks. Now, Taryn, is this disturbing information to you?
It's very disturbing, and I'll tease for the second half of the show. This is very funny that we got this clip in the episode tonight, and we'll get into that later.
Okay, all right, and yeah. I'm not even going to get into is he wearing it or what is he doing with it, but I don't know. We'll just let Natalie assume whatever she wants to assume on that front. Victor had a very unusual speech here tonight, and hopefully, Taryn, you can give us some more insight into this. Now, he ended up really just like setting it up that he was back with a vengeance, 9-1. Now everybody's going to pay, even though the people who decided that he was going to go home, those are his allies, and he doesn't care about that. Somebody has to pay the price. And then he ends up coming down really hard on Michelle and Zakiya, especially how Zakiya gives all her attention to Paulie, and then he threw beads at them a la Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras. Taryn, what was the point of him throwing beads at them? And that wasn't the same, like, he doesn't want them to take their top off, right?
I mean, I don't know. It's Victor. But no, he's from New Orleans, so he got those beads in his HOH basket, and they were discussing the speech that he was going to give after he got that basket, and he was just like, for punctuation on the speech, he'll throw them some beads. Paulie and Paul were laughing about how he's going to throw beads at them in the speech, and it went off without a hitch, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
Poem speech was on fleek.
Poem speech was on fleek. The reviews, though, from the other house guests that were watching, especially James, looks like he just got out of watching Suicide Squad, Kirsten.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. What did you think of the speech, Kirsten? Was it too over the top for Victor's HOH speech?
I was a little confused.
Yes. Well, I think we all were.
Okay.
Yeah, very confusing indeed. Taryn, how did it go over in the house?
I mean, to Paulie and Paul, they were like, "This is amazing. It's not only was it fun to watch, but it's putting a huge target on Victor's back," and it very, very much did. Zakiya and Michelle very unhappy about this, very unhappy with Victor. But other than them, nobody else really cares.
Yeah, and was it really Paul and Paulie hanging Victor out to dry, or did they feel like that there was some other benefit of really putting Victor out there?
I think it was hanging him out to dry and just, for giggles.
Okay, because you get bored in the house.
Yeah.
And if you can't think of a new haircut to get, I guess this is the kind of thing
yeah, exactly.
that you think about. All right, Kirsten, here's what I want to know from you. So the Paulie and Zakiya relationship has been so frustrating to watch. It really seems that at no point does Zakiya ever say that, she's had enough with this guy. And we had tonight where obviously Devon goes out And similar to Michelle, I think that Zakiya was like, okay, well, Devon went home, but why didn't anybody tell me what was going on? And then we just see constantly where Paulie just like is up to Zakiya and it says basically like, sup, what's going on? What's going on? And she seems, rightfully annoyed of, hey, I wish my boyfriend in the house told me about the big plan that was going on so I didn't get humiliated and vote in the wrong direction. Well, what's been your take on the Paulie-Zakiya relationship?
It's frustrating is definitely the right word. I feel like everyone knows a girl or woman who's been in a relationship where the man is just, I can't think of any acceptable words to use right now, but it's just does not treat them well, is rude to them, but then it's like, oh no, baby, it's okay, it's just one time, like, I'm so sorry, but you get so emotional.
Yeah, and she's constantly
So
is yeah, and then constantly is just running back to him over and over again with arms open. Taryn, on the feeds, does Zakiya ever confide in the other women in the house about the state of this relationship?
Oh yeah, when Day was in the house, she was confiding in Day a lot, but it's mostly been Michelle. She really talks Paulie to Michelle quite a bit and talks about how she doesn't need him, she's totally gonna go after him at some point. Talks a big game, but then when she's with Paulie, it's she kind of melts. She says that she's playing him, but it's very I don't think she is. I mean, I think she understands, like, he's not treating me the way that I want to be treated, and I know that I need to emit a certain image in response to that. Like, I can't be head over heels for him. I need to be saying that I'm just playing along right now. But she still does trust him more than she should, as we saw in the episode where she said, I think I can trust him a little bit.
Yeah, Kirsten, I think that the thing that's the parallel between both Michelle and Zakiya in both this episode and in previous episodes is you have the men in the house really sort of just like lead them in all these directions that are not necessarily in their best interests. And then when you have a scene like Michelle having a breakdown or Zakiya when she sort of like gets upset with Paulie, there's a lot of like, boy, well, these women in the house be acting all emotional. What's up with that? Where they're just being lied to constantly, and then if they ever want to, drill down on any of these lies, there seems to be this like, whoa, I can't. Why is she being like this, Kirsten?
Well, and it's the other thing that's contributing to that is that the other women in the house are also saying, like, oh, they're so emotional, oh, that's just what girls do. And it kind of gives the men permission to treat the other women like that as well. And I just don't understand why they can't. Really okay. I know that they have to play the game and that there's a certain extent of you just put up with something to stay. But at the same time, I feel like someone needs to stand up for someone. Like, I know Natalie did a little while ago. She was like, no, that's not just what girls do. But she's the only one who said anything.
Mm-hmm. Now, Taryn, does Nicole ever get painted with that same brush in the court? I mean, Nicole has really gone into the back. I mean, Corey, I don't think, had a line tonight in the episode. Nicole, only we saw her with Michelle. I mean, that showmance has really, really gone to the back burner, other than if we have, like, a wacky moment from them, and we didn't even get that tonight.
Yeah, I'm kind of afraid of what Corey's saying about Nicole in the diary room, that they're so afraid to show that relationship on the episode. But yeah, I mean, Nicole has not received the same treatment as the other women, mostly because she's so with the guys, I think. In the beginning of the game, she sort of had the same thing where she would get, she would get into arguments with Corey, and there would be some talk about how she was being too emotional. But lately it's been like, oh, Nicole is the cool one. Nicole is the one that we can hang around with. We need to bring Nicole as far as we can.
Kirsten, what's been your take on Nicole's game this season? That we've had a lot of comparisons to Christine back in Big Brother 16 as sort of being the one woman who's a sympathizer to the guys in the house and is willing to sell out the other women in the house. What's been your take on her?
There's definitely some parallels there, like even especially with that conversation with Big Mish today, where she's apologizing for the vote and that kind of thing. But I feel like Nicole's being that girl who's like, oh, I'm not like other girls. I don't really get along with girls. I only hang out with boys. which is probably my biggest pet peeve on the entire planet.
Yeah, that other women that do this?
Yeah, it's like, it's hard enough things that are just being a person, and then when other girls are against each other, it just makes it more difficult. And the minute she shows emotion, they're going to call her crazy too, so it's not helping her either.
Okay, well, tonight, Taryn, we saw the real reveal of this executives alliance that we were talking about, with full title card treatment as depicted behind me, with Victor, who is the chief executive officer. We found out about the chief operations officer, the chief friendship officer as well. Now, I saw a lot of people tweeting about how that the executives is not a real alliance as considered by some of the people that are in it. So how real is the executives?
I mean, it's a real alliance in the sense that it's named, and these people are all playing ball with each other to some extent. It was made mostly to kind of make fun of Victor and to reel him in more. But I mean, something that people should remember is that the Quack Pack was a fake alliance to appease Ian. And like, we get a lot of these kinds of alliances that, like, the Bomb Squad was kept alive for Caleb's sake, even though Caleb was more of an ally than some of the people in the detonators, right? So these fake alliances can often last even longer than the real ones. This one, however, Victor is really still on the guy's radar. He's still somebody that they're going to target pretty soon, especially in a double eviction.
Okay, so that what Davon said to Victor, that's legit? That has legs?
To some extent, you know, the information she was using was kind of like somewhat fake in the sense that they were just kind of telling her that to placate her. But they have discussed that they want to target Victor in a double eviction. Maybe not the next one, but maybe the one after that. They're not sure. They're still going back and forth about when they want to take him out and when they're gonna leave him in, because he's such a useful weapon to them right now.
Okay, so if this guy's alliance does hold and you have the 5 men in the house who are all working together, the thing that's really confusing to me is where does James fit in all of this? Because James seems like the person who's going to get cut very early, but certainly does not see the writing on the wall. And he was really flustered that America forced him to make a strategic decision. Tara, does James believe in the executives?
He does not. I mean, he believes in the guys looking out for each other kind of thing. He has his own sort of alliance with Corey and Paulie, and then sort of like an even further one with Paul included as well. He sees Victor as somebody that's very expendable. He doesn't realize that they see him as pretty expendable as well. They're talking about potentially taking James out relatively soon as well. So especially because James... they're all convinced that James just threw that HOH competition that we saw tonight, and that he did it for selfish reasons. Like, he doesn't want to have to get the blood on his hands, and they're concerned about that. And it's going further and further down the line where they're really starting to look at James as somebody who's going to be a threat down the line, and they need to start looking at when do we get rid of him.
But do you believe that? Did James actually throw that HOH challenge?
He did tell people that he was going to throw it, but on the show, he didn't say anything about throwing it. I mean, I don't think that he was going to win it. He definitely didn't do very well in it the last time we saw him do it, but it doesn't really matter because they're convinced he did anyway.
Okay, so Kirsten, tell me your opinion on Natalie so far this season. As a cat owner, has she endeared herself to you?
I think Natalie's adorable. I wish she would play a little harder so that I could really love her. I feel like Natalie and I could probably be best friends.
Yes, why? What does she do that makes you feel like you could be best friends with her?
Well, I feel like she's a girl's girl, which is like the #1 most important thing, obviously. But she also seems to... I just think she's so cute. I don't know how you could not just adore her.
Yeah, she is pretty adorable, Taryn, and you know, she does seem as though she's like, guys, come on, let me win this HOH competition. Now,
you know,
Paul says that's her weapon, though.
Yeah, that was adorable to watch on the episode. It wasn't as adorable to listen to for like an hour on the feeds. I started to think that it was part of her strategy to like just drive Victor crazy, and then he'd jump off because she just kept talking like, I just want to see my mom, just please let me win. And so yeah, but I mean she is very adorable until she gets angry at Nicole and Corey. Then she gets a little feisty.
Yeah, why? What did she do?
Well, I can't repeat some of the things that she said about Corey, but she was not happy with Nicole because Nicole, a lot of this has been going on sort of behind the scenes, but Nicole has been talking about some stuff with Natalie and some of the things that she said in the beginning about wanting girl to win, and so now Corey knows that, and it got back to Natalie that Corey knows that, and so Natalie's pissed at the both of them.
Okay, all right. So, and she's like cursing like a sailor. That's the problem.
She's calling them names. Yeah.
Okay.
I've been called the same name. If people remember, Brent pointed it out. Survivor Sucks called me this.
Okay. All right. Well, now we have to solve the riddle of what name are people calling Taryn on different websites. All right. So then, just going back to the power structure in the house, it just really does seem that Paulie is so well insulated on all fronts between the way that the guys are looking at him, plus Nicole, plus Zakiya, and nobody really seems to be taking a shot at him in any way, shape, or form. And again, we have another week where one of his allies ends up winning the game. Kirsten, how impressed have you been with Paulie in his game this season?
He's such a good game player. But I hate him so much that it's hard to respect it.
Okay. Well, good. Here's what I want to know from you. Paulie's sideburns, friendship or pissed?
Pissed.
Pissed, yeah. Okay, good.
Pissed!
Yeah. Taryn, is it safe to say that is the Paul haircut over for Paulie now?
I think he's evolved. He's evolved to the next stage. He's moved past the Paul haircut.
I mean, there must be something in the water in that Big Brother house, because I don't understand how he's had so many different haircuts over the first 8 weeks of the season.
It's really emblematic of the game he's playing, because it's like he's trying to emulate what Derek did, just like times 50.
Yeah. It must be
changing his look every 2 seconds.
Changing his look so much. Kirsten, how would you describe the new look for Paulie?
I don't know, it's awful. I hope he reaches his final form soon, which is a fully shaved head and face.
Yes, that may be a good way to go. I don't know necessarily what would be the reason to go that look, but maybe at some point, maybe he'll have to win a veto or something like that, and he could completely shave his head. I was really terrified going into that conversation between Victor and Paulie and Paul about how inside of the 5 there needs to be a 3 when Victor was talking about that we need to go down. And Victor pitched an idea. He says, boy, if we could get down to us being the final 3, that would be heaven on earth. And I would have to say to that,
No!
But we should come up with a new name for this 3-person alliance. How about the 3 Bromigos? How about that, Tara? Would that have taken the cake as the worst alliance in the history of reality television?
I mean, it's got to be hard to beat the diapers, but yeah, I think just in sheer terms of like lack of self-awareness, it has to take the cake.
Yeah. Kirsten, a Paulie, Paul, Victor final 3. Should Big Brother just pack up the house, forget Big Brother 19 at that point, just shutter up the house and just call it a good run?
Yeah, just donate the prize money to charity and we can all go home.
Taryn, just give us on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely a scenario is that? How much should we need to just batten down the hatches for preparing for that worst case scenario?
I don't think those 3 are getting to the end together. I don't think there's any way.
So you think that we're taking Victor out of the mix?
I think that somebody's going to get cut from that, and it's probably going to be Victor. There's no way Paulie allows the 2 of them to get to the final 3 with him.
Yeah, I just feel like that Victor is really the cherry on top of that. I don't want to go to Uncle Austin's trailer, but yeah, I mean Victor is just terrible. that Paulie is insufferable, but at least you could say that he is at least playing a good game. You have that aspect of it. And Paul, certainly, I think he has his comedic moments. But there's really nothing appealing about Victor. Am I missing something, Kirsten?
I mean, he came back. He's our Jon Snow, but then it's like he came back as a White Walker.
Yeah, I think so. Taryn, am I missing anything in terms of the appeal of Victor?
No, other than the fact that he's really good at competitions, he's a blunt instrument. That's literally all he is, and Paulie has picked him up and is using him to, cow the house into submission.
Okay, but at some point he'll get screwed over, right?
Yeah, at some point he's gonna throw the weapon away and he's gonna walk into the end.
Okay, because really not doing anything for me in terms of a person on my television. He is not playing a good game. He's not fun to watch. He's not funny. I guess he's funny to laugh at when he's going to make a speech like he did tonight.
Yeah, I guess this speech is probably the high point of his entire Big Brother career at this point, which is really saying a lot about Victor.
Yeah, no, it really is pretty brutal, Victor, and nothing exciting to say about Victor. We got to see America's Care Package return, and in week 2, we see that it is James who wins the Care Package, gets to cancel out 2 votes. Taryn, the fact that James is now so squarely in cahoots with Paulie and so turned against Big Meech, really, I think any excitement that potentially could have come out of this, I think, has also been lost for this week's America's Care Package.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, it was very unlikely to make a difference anyway because it would have had to be a 3-4 vote. But I mean, with James getting it, he's with the majority anyway. So it was really like there was never going to be any sort of instance where this mattered in any way. The only excitement that came from it for me was for a second I thought that the announcement was going to be not yelling, and then they had tricked me and they started yelling.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, that the voice that is the America's Care Package voice is very similar to Victor.
Maybe it is. Maybe that was what he did outside of the house. He recorded all of these.
He recorded a whole bunch of them. So, Kirsten, in terms of Michelle really going off on James, I mean, does that really just speak even more to, I mean, how hard would it have been to figure out that James was going to be getting that next superpower and then to really chew him out in the way that she did? I mean, there's, how bad is that?
Well, it's really, I mean, everyone should have known that James was going to get it because America loves Manses, right? And Michelle's just so Saul does not make any adjustments. Again, more blunders.
It really is tough.
Like, I'm literally the worst super fan in history.
Yeah, and so
we should quickly point out that for anyone who doesn't know, Michelle's not the worst superfan in history because she's not a superfan. She started watching. She hasn't seen the majority of the seasons, like more than half of them. She hasn't even seen. So I just for anyone to know in the future when she says that she's a superfan. I mean, she's certainly a fan. She's very into it now, but she doesn't even know the history.
Now, in fairness, isn't she just super fan compared to the other people in this house, Karen?
Oh, certainly. She knows.
By comparison, she's Steve Moses in this house.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Kirsten, would you suspect that she has seen even more than the returning players?
Everyone's seen. It's possible.
Yeah, Karen, I think that wasn't Nicole a super fan back in Big Brother 16, but it seems like that she's got that out of her system.
Yeah, well, she was like, girl with glasses, and was a fan of the show. So, I mean, she's certainly you can certainly see that she is somebody that knows the game, and that's sort of why she's been able to stay afloat this far. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a part of her character at all this time.
Okay. All right. I want to start to get into some of the questions from you guys here tonight. Hashtag RHAP. Also, our YouTube channel at robhasawebsite.com/YouTube. Taryn, who do you think is the front runner now to win the next America's Care Package?
That's a tricky one. I think it's probably Paul. I think that Paul might be the person. I think that his edit is he's at the very least he's very much in our faces. Whereas like who are the casual fans even like looking at right now in terms of like other than James and Natalie?
Yeah.
Maybe Bridget, but she's just so under the radar at this point that it's hard to know.
I wonder if this is the point where Nicole comes back into play, potentially. I had predicted that I thought that Nicole was going to get one of those 5 care packages, but I know that she is really, sunk like a stone of late in the Joker's updates poll. Kirsten, who do you predict will get that 3rd care package?
Bridget.
Bridget.
My sister really likes Pauly, so maybe casual fans will vote for him. I really hope not, but.
Taryn, do you suspect that Paul Lee could be in play for the casual fans, or is this Zakiya storyline too off-putting?
I think the Zakiya thing has sunk him. I think that, especially, I think it was a couple episodes ago, they really sunk him as far as like the Zakiya stuff. Like they showed all of the terrible things that he did to Zakiya, and like not that Zakiya did anything to deserve it, but they didn't show any of Zakiya's faults. So like they definitely showed like, oh man, Pauly is such a jerk, and they're really running with that storyline.
See, but I don't think we've had the night yet where they bury him. I think that they've shown us some of it now, but I don't think that we've had the night. Like I remember back in Big Brother 16, we had the night where the edit really turned negative on Frankie Grande. We were like, oh, what's this? And I'm waiting for that night where they really end up burning Pauly. And I wonder if they're hesitant to do that because they feel like he's going to be the winner of this season, and they don't want to make him look as bad as they possibly could. So I think that they've shown him in a negative light, but I don't think they've shown him in the ultra-negative light. Kirsten, do you think that they have shown Pauly as bad as they possibly could at this point?
No, definitely not as bad as they possibly could. I feel like they showed him just bad enough that people will be like, oh, I kind of like a bad boy.
Yes, women like the bad boy, isn't that right? From what I hear. I don't know what they like.
No, I think that's really perceptive, actually, Rob. Like, I think that's exactly what they're doing. They're showing they're showing him just bad enough a light that the feed watchers aren't going to be like up in arms that he's not getting the edit he deserves, but not so bad that the casual fans are going to be like, this is the worst season ever because this total jerk just ran the season.
Yeah, I think he's been somewhat protected to this point, and we'll see if the game turns against him at some point, if he may end up getting the worst edit as he's headed out the door. But until that point, I think that they want to at least protect the winner to some degree when we've said on this show before that we think that there's over a 50% chance that he will be the winner of this season. Kirsten, do you agree with that? Better than 50% chance Pauly is the winner at this point?
Yeah, probably. I wish not, but there it is.
Yeah, just for the sake of the unpredictability, I think that really if he was gone, if some miracle happened where, let's say in this double eviction, he ended up going home, that Taryn, how do you think, wouldn't this be a pretty unpredictable rest of the way this season?
I think that there's enough groundwork laid that the guys would stick together and just continue to run it. I think that Paul is somebody that could throw some chaos into this, especially if, we saw him wanting Zakiya out and Pauly wanting Michelle out. And if Paul doesn't get his way for a second week in a row, we really may start to see Paul kind of drifting away and starting to think about maybe throwing a wrench in this entire plan.
Yeah. One other thing before we get into the questions, we began to see the groundwork laid where we saw Paul having conversations with Victor about how this week, your boy, we need to get Z out of the house. She was calm and collected. Big Meech was a mess. We also saw Pauly having conversations with James about how we need to keep Zakiya in the house because Big Meech, she could end up being a vote on the other side of the house. So, Taryn, how much was that manufactured for the show, and how much is that a storyline this week?
No, it's very much a storyline this week that Paul is very set on wanting Zakiya out, and we saw Paul overhear that conversation that James had with Michelle, that argument that they had, and that's another part of it too, is that really solidified for Paul, like, Michelle is going to be going after James is going to be going after Michelle. Zakiya is somebody who can fit right back in. I want people going after each other, and he sees Michelle as a lightning pole who will continue to attract attention and go after people that aren't him, and he feels like he has a better relationship with her than with Zakiya, so he's very, very dead set on that, whereas Paulie is very dead set on keeping Zakiya because of basically the same reason. He feels like he has a better relationship with Zakiya for obvious reasons, and that he can control her to a much greater extent than he can Michelle.
But the Zakiya thing is so interesting from Paulie's perspective because it's a little bit of a ticking time bomb where she's somebody who does have that loyalty to him, but she's also the person that if he burns her enough, she could eventually go. Now, we have not seen that happen yet in this game, but there is that possibility where if he does burn her bad enough, she could be an explosive force in the game. Kirsten, do you think that there is any possibility that this could come back to bite Paulie, where Zakiya blows up his game at some point?
I think it definitely could happen. I really hope it does happen. I feel like it would be like that J-Lo movie where the abused housewife goes after her husband. That's what I want to see. I want Zakiya to go full J-Lo.
Yes, full J-Lo. I would love it. I would love it. That would be so exciting. All right, let's get in. Yes, Darren.
Oh no, it's super risky, but part of Paulie's plan is that with Michelle gone, Zakiya really just has nobody else to turn to. So with that said, I don't think that if Michelle goes, Zakiya will even be able to go off on him because she really just doesn't have anybody else.
Yeah. All right, let's take some questions, and why don't we start off with Oscar Reedmore. Is there a chance for a female winner? Kirsten, do you think there's a possibility that could happen?
I think the only way is if we ended up with like a Natalie. I don't think there's really much other chance of that.
Yeah, Taryn, I could see the Natalie thing happening where if she's brought along to this final three as a GOAT with PP to be that third person, like could the person in the victorious slot end up winning the season?
Absolutely. Paulie's biggest detriment to his game right now looks to be his jury management. It's not great. I still think that he'd probably win in the end, but we have seen people like Michelle talk about on the feeds, I want to make sure Paulie doesn't win the season. Zakiya has said the same thing. People aren't very happy with what he's doing. However, this happens a lot, and people are bitter in the moment, but after a month in the jury house, they tend to not be quite as bitter. So we'll see, but it's definitely a possibility that the person that gets dragged along with somebody like Paulie could end up winning the game because of it.
Interesting. Haiku Fishback says, shouldn't James just eliminate his and Natalie's vote? Taryn, do we know anything about the particulars of the votes that he's allowed to get rid of? Can he get rid of his own vote?
He said to Corey and Paulie that he was told he was not allowed to cancel out his own vote, which I assume is the truth.
Yeah, and would be the ultimate James cop-out. Every week he should eliminate his own vote.
Yeah, he said he wanted to, but they told him he wasn't allowed.
Yeah, and I also think it'd be the kind of thing that Natalie would be pissed off about if James canceled out her vote. I think that my read on her is that I think that would annoy her. Carson, what do you think about that?
Yeah, she would be not happy. That would be no bueno.
Yeah, no bueno on that one. So
No bueno.
Yeah. My City says, would Natalie have won HOH if she had Coach Dan Giesling in her corner? What do you think of that, Taryn?
Of course, he gives the best speeches. Like if I had been able to listen to Dan give a speech during that endurance competition, it would have been much easier to watch.
Yeah. Okay. We may need Coach Dan Giesling to give us a pep talk if it's looking like it's going to be that board, the executive board final three in a couple of weeks. But we'll keep going. Ron from Toronto wants to know which cast members have less than a 10% chance of winning this season. All right. Let's just come up with the people that are the most unlikeliest of candidates to win. Kirsten, do we have anybody in your mind that fits that category?
Michelle.
Michelle. Okay. Taryn.
I think
One
Zakiya as
person.
well.
Zakiya. Is there anybody else?
I think that Bridget is going to have a hard time.
I would say Bridget. I think that she might last, but I can't imagine her winning under any circumstances.
Yep.
I forgot she was in the house. I really did, and then she was at that scene with Paul. She's like, "Wow, like really, everything he told me came true." Like, there's no fire to Bridget. There's no like, you know what? Screw all these people that they left. Like I just want to see like a little bit of Arya Stark in her. Like, wouldn't that be great if she had some fire?
She's just too sweet.
Yeah, she's just like, oh,
yeah.
like, wee, what a fun. You know, she's either getting picked on or it's just like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, and we should add Victor to that list as well. I don't think he has much of a shot.
Yeah, no chance. Not even a 10% chance. It's just because that Paulie owns so much of the equity, Taryn.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the guys do. It's that, you know, even if Paulie ends up getting cut toward the end, it's going to be from somebody like Paul or Corey who do it, and they're going to take the win from him.
Okay. All right. Let's keep going. Jennifer Pollock says, "What exactly was Big Meech's downfall? What did she or do or didn't do to get into this spot? What can she do to get out of it?" Taryn, do you have an early autopsy on Big Meech?
Sure. I think one of her big mistakes early on was dropping Tiffany as quick as she did. I think Tiffany would have been a great ally for her, and Tiffany wanted to work with her. They were very close in the beginning. However, if we want to look at what led to this particular moment, it was really her behavior last week when she was when Day was on the block. She was very emotional about the fact that Day might be going home, and she let those emotions get in the way of her game, where she felt bad for Day and she wanted to keep Day instead of looking at the strategic picture and thinking, I know that Paulie wants Day out, and I know that a lot of people want Day out, and I need to start getting on board with those people instead of sitting here thinking of ways to keep Day. It's really this whole Devon thing that has put her on the outs and kept her on the outs, and then again, as we mentioned at the top of the show, her behavior after the vote was very poor, and you know, then on top of that, just her general social game.
Kirsten, do you co-sign that? That was the fatal flaw for Big Meech.
Yes, and I would like to add the clause of who she is as a person.
Yes, yes. Well, that was something that I know Alex took some heat for, and maybe the other live feed LFC members did too, of saying that she had zero chance to win the game about a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. And like, I mean, we've been talking about this since basically the beginning, close to the beginning of the game, where it's like even when we thought maybe she'd have some strategic chops, just her personality doesn't make her a person that's likely to get votes in the end.
Yeah. Taryn, I wanted to ask you about this. I think this is an interesting inflection point that I had read. This was from the Survivor Reddit. This was a poster. OMG, it's Garrett posted that Bronte's eviction turned this season into what it is now. And basically, this Redditor theorized that after Bronte was evicted, the Spy Girls got split up. People went to target Frank. There was mistrust between Tiff and Day. It was the end of the 8-pack, and that is how we got into this situation. That one point in time was because Bronte was evicted instead of Tiffany. Agree or disagree?
I agree that it was a large factor, but I think Victor coming back into the house was really the death knell for this season as far as this whole bro thing goes.
Okay. All right. Let's get another question. This is from PJ, who says, between his speech at nominations and his final 3 deal with PP, what do you think are Victor's chances of winning? Obviously, we'll say less than 10%. Kirsten, do you think that is there a greater than 10% chance for Victor?
If it is, it's like 10.5.
10.5. Okay. All right. Really, I feel like that, like pay-per-view. I feel like PPV could have been something. They could have worked that in. I feel like they really weren't trying. All right. Fizzle McNabb says, "Hey Victor, the jerk store called and they're running out of you." Wow. That would have been a good addendum to the speech. I did like it when he like slid the beads across the table and then Meech just like let it fall on the floor, like didn't even try to catch the beads. But I don't know. I feel like that if you were gonna incorporate the beads, I feel like you needed like a pun in there of like a reason for the beads. It's just like. And by the way, like you're on the block. Here's some swag. Don't ever forget. Don't ever say I didn't give you anything.
To be fair, I think
know.
they cut up his speech a little bit, so maybe there was an explanation.
Maybe there's a point. Okay. This is from Hunter Clark. Will the Guy Alliance end up splitting up ever? Well, Taryn, we talked about this idea of there's some talk about which person from the block should end up going home, and there's a little bit of dissension in the ranks. Do you think that this could be the beginning of a fracture between the alliance?
I definitely do. Because Paul is so adamant about wanting Zakiya out, and the other guys are so adamant about not wanting Zakiya out, it definitely could form a fracture. But I think that at least one or two more girls will probably leave before there's any real kind of fracture that happens.
And also, are Paul and Paulie on the same page as to what Victor's spot is in the pecking order?
They are on the same page. Paulie suspects that Paul may be just like fake agreeing with him at the moment. He says he thinks that Paul is saying, "Oh yeah, we'll totally take out Victor," but secretly wants to take Victor even further. We don't really know what Paul's plan is really, but I would suspect that that's his plan because it's a great plan for him.
Kirsten, is there a possibility that Zakiya could be the Yoko Ono of the executives in that Paulie wants to keep her around to a certain point, and Paul feels like that she's bad news, he wants to get rid of her? Do you think that could potentially be another wedge between the guys?
Yes, but I also think that Paulie is too worried about losing his bros to let Zakiya be the Yoko Ono.
Yeah. I'm starting to talk myself into maybe the guys aren't going to see this all the way through. I feel like that maybe they could start to, really start to, fight with each other. Because, the thing that the bomb squad or the detonators ultimately had was they got rid of Amber. That they didn't have, connections between any of the women in that season. Like, there wasn't one woman in particular that Derek had or Cody had or Frankie had. They got rid of Amber for Caleb. Zach wasn't connected to anybody, and it was really, Derek had a friendship with Victoria, but that was really, I guess, the Cody and Christine thing was a factor. But Taryn, do you think that could potentially be the undoing, that everybody sort of, it's not just guys, that, Corey has Nicole, James has Natalie, that Paulie has Zakiya?
Yeah, I think that if Zakiya does end up staying this week, we're going to have 3 of those guys with a girl attached to them, and they're all going to want to fight for who gets to keep theirs in the game the longest. And I think that we're seeing this week that sort of conflict is not very easily resolved in this group, and we might start to see some real fractures at that point.
Okay, and then Bridget's in there somewhere as well. Okay, let's go to Jonah Dwyer. Are we going to see Paulie pull a major overplay trying to keep Zakiya?
I don't think that. I mean, so far he's kind of improved since Tiffany, right? Where when Tiffany was on the block and he really wanted Tiffany out, he was very, very adamant about it. He would not hear any sort of talk about keeping Tiffany. Now he's sort of adapted the Derek approach, which is, oh yeah, totally, I'm totally up for that. We'll totally do it. And then kind of making sure that everybody else is on board with what he wants, and then using them to change this person's mind. So he's definitely improved on that front.
All right, let's take one more question, and then we'll talk about the live feeds from the weekend. Jared Daniel, how long after things happen do the house guests comment in the diary room? Is it right after or once a week? Tara, could you speak to how often are they in the diary room doing these interviews?
I mean, they get called in periodically, just usually at least once a day. So, I mean, people start to complain when they don't get called. I know that Michelle was upset that she wasn't called for a few days. At one point, she was like, am I even on the show? I mean, that usually happens. And then there's usually somebody like Johnny Mac who gets called a lot, and they're like, why is Johnny Mac always going to the diary room? Something's going on. But yeah, it's just periodically throughout the day, mostly to talk about competitions, and then just usually like when something like right after Devon was told that she was going to be put up as a pawn, She talked to a few people, she cried it out a little bit, and then she got called into the diary room to talk about it. So it basically goes like that.
All right. Well, we are going to get into all of the spoilers and talking about the veto competition from the weekend and if it will be used. So that's coming up here. Don't forget, on Monday, we're going to have the Big Brother Happy Hour, reality TV Happy Hour with Jordan Farhar back in its regular scheduled time, I believe 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, coming up on Monday. Kirsten, are you a fan of the Happy Hour?
Oh, I love having all the live feed correspondents in one place. I think it's hilarious.
Okay, good. All right. So you don't need any more recommendations than that. So check that out live on Monday night or in the podcast feed on Reality TV Wrap Ups. And now here we go. Let's talk about the spoilers from the weekend on Big Brother 18.
The Office of Civil Defense has issued the following message. This is
a spoiler.
Warning.
A spoiler.
Warning means that an actual
spoiler
against this country has been detected and that protective action should be taken.
Okay, yes, all right. Draining spoilers tonight. All right, time to talk about the power of veto. And Taryn, let's get into it and let's talk about what is unfolding over the weekend. All right, power of veto is played, and the holder of the power of veto is
Paulie.
My brother Cody.
No, Paulie. Paulie is the holder of the power of veto. Now, this is the interesting thing for me about this. So, Zakiya had house guest choice, and she chose Paulie after all this?
Yep. He told her that he was going to use it on her if he got it. I imagine thinking that he would be able to throw this competition, but it was the hide and seek competition where they hide an object, and if your object is the last one to be found, then you win the competition, and he hid his a little too well.
So he was that he didn't want to win it, and then ended up reluctantly winning, because this is a real sticky situation, to quote a brilliant songwriter on this. So here's what I want to know, Taryn: is he going to use the power of veto?
He is not going to use the power of veto.
Oh. So all right, Kirsten. If you're dating a guy in the Big Brother house, and you're on the block, and he wins the power of veto, and he doesn't use it on you, what does that mean?
I mean, I guess to some they could think he's playing hard to get.
Sketch?
But not in the house.
Yeah.
If he really cared, he'd use the veto.
Yes. Doesn't that mean you care if you use the power of veto on your girlfriend on the block?
Well, I mean, he does. He is wearing the red, bandana. So maybe he's trying to emulate Dan, and he can say that. Like, Dan put Memphis up a lot, so this is like we're just hiding the relationship, right? But no, he's not even using that argument.
Yeah, I'll try using that in an argument with my girlfriend or my wife sometime about like, well, Dan Giesling, he did that to Memphis one time.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I guess you're right. I guess you make a good point. Like if Dan Giesling did it in Big Brother 10, then sure. So now, Darren, how is Zakiya handling this news, and does she know?
She handled it pretty well, actually. He told her, he talked to the guys, and he was like, I'm going to tell Zakiya and see how she reacts, and then, if she freaks out, then maybe we can think about voting her out, but we'll just see her reaction. And her reaction was very mellow. It was like, so if I win, I shouldn't use it on you, and he's like, well, if I'm in trouble, you should use it on me. And she's like, okay, well, all right, okay. And that was basically it. I think she was very sad afterward, but there was no sort of blow up or anything like that. To her benefit, I think. But yeah, ultimately, very, very little reaction.
But Kirsten, do you think is this strategy on her part that she's like, okay, I know this is bad, but I know if I blow up about this right now, then I'm going to end up potentially getting voted out? Or has she just talked herself into? Is she just like a Bachelor contestant and just is like just completely in this fantasy world about how everything is going to work out, and her and Paulie are going to be the second coming of Brendan and Rachel, and they're going to go on and have like this amazing life together?
Well, I like to hope and wish that she has this like quiet fire inside that's just waiting to explode. But I think, like as she said, she didn't. It really cares a lot about her boyfriend. not the game so much.
This is very, very frustrating. The heart wants what the heart wants, but it's not what we want.
Yeah. And I mean, like, we saw this coming. Like, in her bio and in her interviews, she talked about wanting to go in to have a showmance. And, like, I know at the very least, I was like, I think that she has potential, but I'm worried about this going into the game, because if she's too focused on having a showmance, then her head's going to be in the clouds, and that's not going to be fun to watch. And it's really played out. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm saying, like, I think the casting this season was just a little bit off. They need to start casting people who want to play the game more.
Yeah. Yep. Rob, look, if I'm being honest, do you think any woman can resist these sideburns? Do you think that she even had a chance? Oh, yeah. No, I don't think so. All right, Taryn, let's talk about the decision of Meech versus Zakiya in terms of the vote. Have the executives talked this through fully yet for about Thursday?
They have not come together and talked about it. They talked about coming together, but they haven't done it quite yet. I believe they still plan on it at some point. But basically, it's Paul and Victor talking about, we really want Zakiya out. They talked to Paulie about it, and Paulie's like, well, I think we should maybe keep Zakiya, but whatever, we'll go with what you want. But it's those other guys, Corey and James, they're totally wanting Zakiya to stay. And then Paulie goes and talks to James and Corey, and he's like, dudes, Zakiya totally has to stay. Those guys are telling me that Zakiya has to go. They're telling me to convince you. We gotta present a unified front against them. So it's basically everybody is looking to keep Zakiya at this point, except for Paul and Victor and they plan on eventually going to Paul and Victor and saying, hey guys, we want to keep Zakiya.
Get on board with this. Now, Victor doesn't have a vote this week. Paul does, but in terms of other people in the mix, is there any chance, like, who is Bridget more loyal to?
Bridget is... It's difficult because she was, like, Paul and Victor were talking to her a lot in the beginning of the week saying that Zakiya is totally leaving, and then so she was under the impression that Zakiya was leaving, and then Paulie eventually talked to her and said, yeah, everybody except for Paul and Victor want Zakiya to stay, and she's like, oh, okay, in that case, well, Zakiya is staying. So she's really just kind of like, whoever presents her with the most amount of numbers, she'll follow along.
Yeah, if we assume that Nicole is on the same page as Corey and Natalie on the same page as James, it seems like there's no way that there's going to be any sort of insurrection happening or anybody going along with Paul. But is there the chance that Paul starts to play his way out of the alliance by pushing too hard?
Definitely, and it's starting to happen. Paulie has... Yes. Paulie has started to talk to Corey and James about... like, hey, you know, Paul is thinking selfishly right now. He wants to keep Michelle because him and Victor can control her. He's talking about like Paul has this idea that he wants to weaken me by taking Zakiya out. He's really starting to separate those two groups of guys, right? Where he's got Victor and Paul on one side and Corey and James on the other side, and he's really he's continuing to hack at that connecting tissue.
If your boy can make a move and get Paulie out and make a new alliance, this is the complete game changer for Big Brother 18. And I'm not talking about anything else. I'm talking about Paul potentially being the prince that was promised, Kirsten.
Yes, he could gather the girls and do what Jason Roy said he was going to do last year.
Yes. Okay. We'll see. Boy, that would be something, Taryn. Any chances is complete fan fiction?
I do think there's a small chance. I think that
I could stomach Victor in this scenario. How about that?
I mean, again, this is me saying last week that there was a chance that if a girl won this HOH, then we could see a flip. But I can see a situation where, like, maybe Paul wins HOH next week, and he's so pissed off about not being able to get Zakiya out of the house that he goes to Zakiya and says, "Hey, listen, girl. Paulie's been talking crap about you this whole time. He pulls in Bridget. He's got Victor, and maybe he makes a move. Maybe he even is able to pull in somebody like Natalie. I can see that happening, especially because people are starting to talk about Paulie as somebody who's a big threat. He's won so many competitions at this point that it's very obvious.
Okay, building on this, Taryn. Give me the scenario for the double eviction on Thursday that's going to make me the most excited. Most realistic scenario that's going to make me excited about Thursday.
I think a Natalie HOH is always going to be a good thing because she does not care. She's willing to go after whoever, and I think that we'd have to see Paul win and be very upset about what went down this week.
Okay, all right. I still don't think he would turn on Team
I don't
PP.
think he would this. I don't think he would this soon, which is unfortunate. But I think that maybe if Natalie won, or even if Zakiya won, we could see something maybe crazy happen. But probably not.
All right, Bryce Nethery wants to say, does it piss anyone else off that Victor nominates Z and Meech because they voted against him, but Paulie backdoored you, bruh? That was all caps. That's why I had to put that in. Did it piss you off, Kirsten?
I don't know if I'm.
Karen, did it piss you off?
Yeah, pissed.
Pissed. Yeah, okay.
No, I wasn't pissed. I mean, it's just gameplay, right? Like Paul totally snowed him into thinking that that Paulie wasn't at fault for the blind side, and yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah. Okay. This is from Mackenzie, who says, "Can someone please tell me what Paulie's plan is with James's votes?" Okay, Taryn, who will ultimately? We talked a little bit about what might happen. Who are the leading candidates for what is Paulie going to do with America's Choice?
Well, Paulie has suggested to James that he cancel out his vote, Paulie's vote. But it's not set in stone what James is going to do quite yet. I just, as this show is starting, saw Corey talking to James about, like, we can't cancel Paulie's vote. Like, we can't take the blood off of his hands there. Like, he has to own this if he wants to keep Zakiya. So it's definitely still up in the air as to what James is going to do, but we can assume that whatever he does is going to support the idea that they're going to keep Zakiya. So he's probably going to cancel out somebody like Paulie's vote if he thinks that Paulie is going to vote to evict Zakiya, and he may also eliminate Bridget's vote if he thinks that Bridget will follow along with Paulie.
Okay, let's do one or two more questions. This is from Scranton Analytics, who said, did you guys think that Victor's nomination was a refreshing moment this season? Finally, a nomination speech where the HOH wasn't telling their nominees that they could bake together afterwards. That feels like a shot at Bridget. So what do you think about that, Darren? Was that a high point for you? Was the nomination speech on fleek?
Poem speech was on fleek.
Sure, you know, it's better than nothing.
Are people even saying on fleek anymore? Has Victor been in sequester for like 2 years? Even I know that. Stop it.
Yeah, that's News AF from a year ago, right?
Yeah, it wasn't even called News AF then.
Yeah. Well, proper branding, Rob.
Yeah, that's how old it is.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's better than just, like, I put you up because you're a threat and I put you up as a pawn, don't worry about it. Like, it's, you know, it's something, you know, it's like Zach Rance level something, but it's still something.
Yeah, Kirsten, that not only did he say that the poem speech was on fleek, he also said that the, what does he call himself? He calls himself the Puerto Rican, what's the correct noun?
I don't even remember. I don't even care. I don't know.
Sensation?
Yeah. He says that, he's on, whatever else, he said he's on fleek, too.
Yes.
I thought that on fleek was only for eyebrows, and I didn't know that adult people use that word. So.
Yeah, Puerto Rican sensation. Thank you, Vader girl in the chat. Yes, Puerto Rican sensation is also on fleek.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, he got some fleek in sequester, and he's been on it ever since.
Yeah. All right. This is from Wyatt Moyers. Would it be better for Paulie's game if Zakiya or if Michelle leaves? I think that we're all in agreement it would be better if Meech leaves for Paulie. He really has no connection with her, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, again, as you mentioned, there are risks in keeping Zakiya, but for the most part, I think it's the safer option.
Okay, and last question. This is from Jessica, who says, I melt when I see at Armstrong Taryn. Also from May Altair. This is like the Taryn stands out there. May Altair. Taryn is so cute. And Armstrong Tarrant's spoiler dance is on fleek. That's from Meg.
I'm on fleek, I guess.
Yeah, Tarrant is on fleek.
Yeah,
Did you know there were so many Tarrant fans out there?
I had heard that Tarrant is the cute correspondent.
Yes. Okay. Wow, Taryn.
Don't tell Brent that.
Does that piss you off that then people are ignoring your intellect, Taryn?
Oh, absolutely. It's constantly pointed out to me by Brent that people only agree with me because I'm cute. So hashtag objectified.
What about all the people that are listening to the audio version?
They appreciate me for my actual good qualities, like my voice.
Okay.
No, they're
All
just
right.
concerned about getting too distracted.
They don't want to get too distracted. All right. Well, Kirsten, first off, thank you for joining us here tonight on the podcast. Nice to get your opinion. Can't wait to check on Netflix for the J-Lo movie so I can see how this season is going to play out.
Thank you for having me. This is fun.
Okay. If we want to follow you on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle?
At Kirsten Said What.
Okay, at Kirsten Said What. Twitter name on fleek. Taryn, of course, we can see you tomorrow night on the reality TV Happy Hour. Of course, you can follow Taryn as well, at Armstrong Taryn on Twitter. All right, what's the hashtag tonight?
The only thing I see is Taryn Sensation, but I don't want to recommend that myself.
Taryn Sensation.
It's the only one in the chat. Give me something.
All right, well, we don't have a better one. So at Taryn Sensation. So that's going to do it for us here tonight. We got a really good off-season Survivor podcast coming up tomorrow night. I'll post it late Monday night. You'll have it for Tuesday morning. Miles Nye came by to talk with me about hacking the Survivor challenges, talking about some emergent gameplay strategies from the Survivor challenges, Taryn, that different Survivor players have used to really win specific challenges. So we'll talk that through on the next Survivor off-season podcast, and then we'll be back with another podcast Wednesday night and Thursday night. Got some good Big Brother guests in the hopper. I'm just juggling around the schedule a little bit, but I think you guys will be pleased with some of the upcoming Big Brother guests that we have coming to the podcast. So a little bit of a tease coming up. Thanks so much to Scott St. Pierre behind the scenes, and of course Big Brother Happy Hour coming up on Monday night. So be on the lookout for that. Okay, until then, have a good one, everybody. Take care.